Hello and welcome to Home with Sarah Jane. In today's video, I am sharing a pretty large used book haul. Now, if you're new here, my name is Sarah and I'm a homeschooling mom to two girls, ages 12 and 15. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for stopping by once again. I do really appreciate you. So all of these books that I purchased are for the upcoming homeschool year, the 2024-2025 homeschool year. I think there's one book in here that I actually bought that I plan on using next year. And I will show you and share that one with you and kind of why I bought it in advance. But all of these books are, like I was saying, used. So they either came from Amazon or the local used bookstore in our area. But I found some gems, you guys, because we are using Guest Hollow for our history curriculum this upcoming homeschool year. And I found a lot of the books that were recommended at the local used bookstore. So I'm pretty sure that somebody just dropped off last year's books at this, used bookstore. And I just happened to show up at a good time because I snatched up quite a bit of them, again, locally. But we're going to jump into it because I think there were 35 books that I ended up purchasing. And if you watch some of my previous videos, you probably heard me say, I don't think I really need to purchase that much more for the upcoming school year. And then this happened 35 books later. But let's jump into it. So this one, I was actually really excited to find used because when I was looking at it new, it was pretty expensive. But this one is How to Be a Victorian. And this is pretty much all about how people lived during the Victorian era. So this was really, really interesting. Again, something that we're using for history. But I like that there are a few pages in here. Pages. Of course, there's pages in here. It's a book. I meant pictures, you guys. I like that there are some pictures in here as well. Next up, I have Under the Broken Sky. Now, this one sounds really, really sad. It's about two sisters that basically become orphaned, and one of the sisters, to try and save her younger sister, sells her younger sister to another family, and then it's all about her trying to get her sister back. So this one sounds really, really sad, but again, something I'm looking forward to reading. Okay, so next up we have Red Scarf Girl, a memoir of the Cultural Revolution. Now this one takes place in 1966, and it's all about how China's leader launches the Cultural Revolution and how it kind of affects this family in a really negative way. So I've never read this one, so I am looking forward to reading this one as well. And then I did pick up a few of the Horrible History books. So this is Horrible History's Incredible Incas, Horrible History's Terrifying Tutors, and Horrible History's Angry Aztecs. Okay, so next up, I also picked up the book Outcast. This is something I plan on reading with my youngest daughter. When a mighty storm wrecks a Roman trading vessel on the coast of Britain, an infant is the only survivor. Already sounds interesting. I picked up Who Was Ernest Shackleton? Guts and Glory, The Vikings. We've never used the Guts and Glories books, but it looked pretty neat when I picked up, I can't remember which one it is now. Which one did I pick up, you guys? I picked up another one, but it looked pretty interesting, and we like that there were some pictures throughout. They are pretty thick, but they look like pretty simple reads. So I'm going to be using this with my youngest. And now this one, my youngest daughter is really looking forward to reading, and this is called The Cat of Bubastes. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly. It's a tale of ancient Egypt. So this one sounds really interesting, about how a young man accidentally kills a sacred cat and then they pretty much have to go on the run. So again, my daughter is interested in anything with animals. I don't think she's gonna like the fact that the cat dies, but this one does sound like a really fascinating read. Okay. Next up, I have Fifth Son, A New History of the Aztecs. So this is basically the Aztec book that my oldest will be reading, where my youngest will be reading the Horrible Histories version. So you can see I kind of have like two different ages there. But yeah, so this one sounds really interesting. I think that I will read this one after my oldest daughter because, again, this is kind of like the stuff that I'm interested in. Okay, so the next book is The Elements of a Home, Curious Histories Behind Everyday Household Objects from Pillows to Forks. Now, this is definitely something that Lydia would be interested in. She likes to hear about that kind of stuff, like why we use certain things, how things were made. You know, she likes that kind of stuff. So I think that she'll find this one really fun. And we are using this with our history program, this book, and the way that it's laid out, it doesn't seem overwhelming. So you're only reading parts of this book at a time over multiple weeks. So it's not going to feel like a ton of information at once. So I do like the way that it's scheduled out for that book. And then I also picked up Barbarians and the Birth of Chinese Identity, the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms. So I've never read this, but it is kind of like this graphic novel, you know, format, which I know my kids will really enjoy. So there's this one. Okay, now this is where I was like, I'll just grab them all. So I found a stack of the Who Would Win books, and I couldn't remember which ones we already had. So I just picked up the entire stack, and whichever ones we already have, I'll probably just give to what, you know, my nieces and nephews, you know, or something like that. But I picked up Who Would Win Ultimate Bug Rumble, Who Would Win Falcon vs. Hawk, Who Would Win Wolverine vs. Tasmanian Devil. I mean, my daughter finds these so interesting. Who Would Win Jaguar vs. Skunk, Who Would Win Lobster vs. Crab. I think we have this one. Who Would Win Triceratops vs. Spinosaurus? I'm horrible with dinosaur names. Who Would Win Hyena vs. Honey Badger? Who Would Win Alligator vs. Python? And Who Would Win Rattlesnake vs. Secretary Bird. So if you're not familiar with these books, these are pretty much like putting 2 animals against each other and kind of talking about their strengths, their weaknesses, and who would win, which is, you know, Who Would Win, the title of the book. But these are really, really interesting. I like how much information is in such a small little book, and my youngest daughters find these so fun. She'll pick these ones up all the time and read them again and again. And as you can see, they have a ton of different versions, and I guess you could say scenarios with different animals and things like that. So she really does get a kick out of the Who Would Win series. Okay, so next up I have Write Your Own Fairy Tale. Now this is kind of like an instruction type of book that goes over, you know, how to write a fairy tale. So this one says, want to be a writer? This is the perfect place to start. The Write Your Own series will teach you how to craft believable characters and intense plots along with satisfying beginnings, middles, and endings. Examples from numerous books appear throughout the text along with tips from published authors to help you along. My oldest daughter really does want to be a writer in some way. She's not exactly sure what type of writer she wants to be, but I thought even though this looks a little young for my high schooler, I still think that she'll get a lot of great information out of it. So for 50 cents, I only paid 50 cents for this book, I thought that this was a steal. Okay, next up, I picked up this book called Medieval Europe. Again, a lot of these are just based off of our history this year. And then I picked up 100 Amazing Facts About Antarctica, the Hidden World of Glaciers. So we are doing kind of like a geography study of all 7 continents, but I think I'm going to, you know, maybe do 3 or 4 this year and like 3 or 4 next year. I know there's only 7, but I don't know how many I'll get through this year. But I'm going to try and take 2 years to cover geography with my 7th grader. And this I just thought would be, you know, great information to go along with Antarctica because there's really not a ton. I mean, we're not really going to be studying cultures or recipes for Antarctica. So I just thought getting a book on some basic facts would be fun for her. But this is a really simple book that has just a different fact on each page. So, I mean, that's me trying to get information about Antarctica. Okay, so next up I have World War II Fight on the Home Front, and this is a history comic. We love these. Again, I purchased this one because one, we didn't have it, and another, it was at a used bookstore, so it was really inexpensive. So this was the only one they had, but I wanted to pick this one up. I don't think we're going to be touching on World War II all too much this year. I think we'll be doing that next year, but I still wanted to pick it up. Okay, so next up I have The Fallacy Detective. This I only paid $1 for, and I was really excited to find this because this was something I was going to use this year, but then I changed my mind and went with something a little different. But because this was only $1, I thought I'll pick it up just in case. This could be my backup if my original pick does not work out. So I picked this one up. And then I also picked up Norse Mythology for Kids, Tales of Gods, Creatures, and Quests. And then it says it has a Norse glossary in the back. This looks like a really nice book. I really, really like this one. Now, we do have a few books on Vikings and Norse mythology and all of that, but when I was going through them on my shelf, I felt like we had been through those books so many times that I really wanted something fresh and new this year. So that's why I picked up this one, and it was still in really good condition. I mean, this book looks like brand new, so I was really happy to find this one. And then I also picked up Hitler Youth, Growing Up in Hitler's Shadow. Again, this is a reader for my oldest daughter for her history. I only paid 50 cents for this book, and I was really happy to find it used because, again, this was another one of those books that I thought was a little bit more pricey, brand new. So 50 cents, again, a steal. Okay, guys, I'm trying to go quickly. Next up, I have The Mongols, and this is just like a little picture book, but I still think that this will be really interesting because it has a lot of great information. And again, I was looking for books that would fit really well with our world history, whether they were required readers or not. So this would be great just to fit in, you know, when we're going through this time period. So I picked up that one. And then I also found Exploring the History of Medicine, From the Ancient Physicians of Pharaoh to Genetic Engineering. This, again, was for our history program. It was recommended for middle schoolers, I think, because the curriculum we're using is adaptable for middle schoolers. So this was on like the middle school reading list, I believe. Yeah, I don't know much about it other than, I mean, it's the history of medicine, but I've never used it before. Never really took, you know, a look at it. So it looks pretty interesting from what I can see, but again, I don't know much about it. Okay, next up I have Food Fight, a mouth-watering history of who ate what and why through the ages. Again, history. This one looks like a lot of fun though. This is definitely something Lydia and I are gonna get a kick out of. So I'm really excited to try this one. And it's a National Geographic kids book. So those are usually pretty good books. I also picked up this National Geographic Kids Ultimate Reptilopedia. If you've been on my channel before, you know Lydia loves reptiles, amphibians, all of that kind of stuff. So this one I just picked up for her for no specific reason other than I thought she would love it. Oh, and then this one. This is the one that I plan on using next year when we study American history. But I found this American Art Bingo Volume 1, Art History Disguised as Fun. So this is actually like a bingo game, and it looks really interesting. So you have like all of these pieces of art with like information on the back, but then in the back you have your bingo cards. So I thought this was a lot of fun. None of the pages were ripped out. It doesn't look like the person ever used it. So I was really excited about that. We love bingo. We love games in general. And this American art one I think will fit really, really well next year. So I had to pick it up. And this one I think I only paid $1 for, you guys. If it wasn't $1, it was only 50 cents. So I really couldn't pass it up. Okay, the last two books. So I also picked up D.K. Smithsonian, History of the World in 1000 Objects. This is the reference book that I chose to use with Lydia this year for her history. I think that she's going to get a kick out of this. Again, she loves learning about stuff like this, and this is a pretty hefty book. It's pretty, it's pretty thick, but there's a lot of fantastic information in this book. And when you buy books like this brand new, they can get pretty pricey. So I was really on the hunt to find them used. And at the store that I purchased this one at, they call this like a coffee table book there. Their coffee table books are only $1 because they even say they try and get rid of them as fast as they can because they take up so much space. So to find something like this for only $1, I mean, I was so excited. I was like walking on sunshine for like 3 days because I found this book for $1. And then the last one that I picked up is the D.K. Smithsonian Battles Map by Map. This one I picked up more with my husband in mind. This is definitely something that he is interested in. But when I was looking at it, it looked really, really fascinating. So again, it's just as it sounds. It is battles map by map throughout the years. And we already have another book in this collection. So we're only missing, I think, one in this like series. I think there's 3 books that go with this, but we have 2 of them now, and I'm gonna have to keep my eye out for that last one. So that is it for today. I keep on saying I'm gonna try and stay out of the bookstores going forward until second semester probably, but we will see, because I just love books. I love books so much. But that is it for today. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by. You have a great day. Bye.